Hello, my name is Lucas Steinmetz. I'm working for IP Solution, and today I'll give you a short presentation about our monitoring tool. Okay, let's start. What I will show you in the next few minutes is how the monitoring tool behaves, how it looks like, and what you can do with it. And I'll do that by usage of our IP Solution demo system for SAP IdM use cases. Before we begin, there is a little bit of theory that I want to give to you first. Our monitoring tool is created in a way that you can either use it in a cloud environment or use it in a on-premise variant. Besides the thema pricing, the only difference between those two versions is where your data is actually saved. All other things like features, functionalities, etc., is the same between both versions. Even more, you can go into the depth and say, well, what data do I want to transmit to the monitoring tool? Do I want to transmit less data or maybe anomalized data? No problem. Do you want to transmit more detailed data because you want to make more detailed reports and analysis? Also no problem. You can do that. The tool is very flexible and thus it's adaptable to any of your wishes and problem situations. And another thing that we often are asked when we demonstrate our tool is where the data is actually stored, because, well, when we talk about cloud storage is not necessarily the same when everybody's talking about it, isn't it? When we talk about our cloud storage, we talk about an SAP cloud. More specifically, all the data is saved on German servers, meaning that it won't leave the European Union and thus is compliant with all the latest data security policies, and there shouldn't be any issues for you there. Well, one very important topic, if we talk about the IdM and what can go wrong here, is the topic of dispatchers. If you ever had an IdM, you might know what can happen if one of your dispatchers suddenly decides to no longer work. There will be work that is simply never completed. And even on our demo system here, we can see that there could be a potential issue here. Because we see basically we have 6 dispatchers, only 3 of them are running. The other 3 are offline. But actually that isn't that much of a problem, because I know that those 3 dispatchers here are not used usually. They are only for very rare occasions like special webinars or use case studies. And thus, there's no big problem here if those 3 dispatchers are not running. And on the other hand, another very important topic is our error situation. As we can see here, we already have quite a few errors in our system. And yeah, there is a pretty even distribution, well, actually it is even, between failed storing errors and modification on non-existent entry errors. Let's take a look into that. You can see a pie chart here, which is a little bit more in depth if you have more issues. If we go even deeper and analyze one of the clusters, we can see that, for example, this user here, which is D058, there is a modification attempt at 15:17 today, which did not work because the corresponding target system responded with the user does not exist. If we now go back and analyze the other cluster, which is failed storing, we can also see the same user D058 again and the same time slot did fail, and thus we can argue that probably both errors are connected to one another. Well, as an IDM consultant, I dare to go even a little bit further to make a little prognosis what the problem is. I dare to argue that the target system was changed. To go even more into detail, I argue that there was a user deleted and that the IDM simply didn't notice that at any point of time, and thus whenever there's a modification attempt, well, we're getting an error. And since we know that now, we can also react to it. Either if you can make some meaning of the data that you obtained by analyzing the logs, you could try to solve the problem yourself if you know enough about your IDM system. Or, especially if you have an additional customer success contract in addition to the monitoring contract, you could simply come to us and say, oh guys, please check this out for me. I think there is an issue. And if you do so, then we will naturally take a look at it and we'll tell you what the problem is. But we can do this in an even more excessive form. And this form is called active support. In the recent months, this model is we're getting a lot of inquiries about it. What we do when you order an active support here, which is actually a premium active support, is that we as a customer success team take a look at your data that is transmitted to our IDM system and look if we find any problems in your system. And if we do, we'll give you a little notification saying, hey, there's a problem here. Shall we check that out for you? And then if you say, oh yes, please have a look at it, we'll do it. We will check what the problem is, and hopefully we'll even solve it in the same moment. That, on the other hand, leads to quite a big benefit for you, because if we go back at our demonstrational case with our user D058, you will not need to wait until D508 comes to you complaining, well, why is my data not being refreshed? But you will take the initiative and be able to fix the data before the user even notices there is a problem. You can do that in an even more advanced setting, like for example, if you say, okay, I want a holiday substitution or things like that, that can also help you in those situations. But even besides the pure log analysis, the monitoring tool is really capable. As a rule of thumb, we say that every information that you can obtain from the database of the IDM, you can display in one way or another on the monitoring tool. You can even put some boundary values here, some boundary margins here. For example, saying, okay, if we have more than 10 entries that fail, I want to get a notification because then I need to do something. You can do that even more into an excess. Like I said before, you can basically analyze everything. Below here, there is what we call the premium section, where you can define your tiles your own. You can specify what should be analyzed in these tiles, and thus you gain a really quick overview of your most important key points and problems with your IDM installation. On the other hand, you also should always think about, well, is this information really that good in the monitoring tool? Or, well, should I maybe put it into the reporting tool because I need a report on a daily basis? Or there's a lot of data that needs to be analyzed here, which would make it more reasonable to do that in a reporting tool. But anyway, I could tell a lot of additional stuff about this tool here, but I think I'll stop at that. If you have any further questions and care for any further information about the monitoring tool, I suggest that you take a look at our IB Solution YouTube channel because there are quite a few webinars, not only about the monitoring tool, but also about quite a lot of additional stuff that we can present to you and we can deliver to you. Maybe you'll find something that's also of interest. And if you liked the video, leave a like, maybe just subscribe to the channel. Well, see you later.